Most people imagine the next global war will resemble the past missiles in the sky, bombs falling, troops marching across borders. But that picture is already outdated. The next war isn't coming. It's here. And most people haven't even realized it yet. Because this war isn't being fought with traditional weapons. It's being fought through trade. Let me explain. For most of modern history, power meant military strength. The bigger your army, the more influence you had. But that definition is no longer complete because the world itself has changed. Economies are deeply interconnected. Supply chains stretch across continents. Resources flow through complex global networks. And that means if you can control trade, you don't need to fight a conventional war. You can win without ever firing a shot. Look at what's happening right now. Trade routes are being disrupted. Sanctions are expanding. Economic pressure is being applied on a massive scale. And none of it comes with a formal declaration of war. That's not a coincidence. That's the new battlefield. In a globalized world, trade is the lifeline. And if you cut that lifeline, you weaken your opponent without ever stepping onto a battlefield. Now, here's where it becomes even more strategic. There are specific locations on the planet where global trade is heavily concentrated choke points, narrow passages through which enormous volumes of goods must pass. Think about the Strait of Malacca, the Suez Canal, the Strait of Hormuz. Control these, and you control the movement of goods. Control the movement of goods, and you control energy. Control energy, and you control power. Consider the implications. If a nation cannot access resources, it cannot grow. If it cannot trade, it cannot sustain itself. So instead of launching an attack, you restrict access. You tighten the flow. Over time, the pressure builds and the system begins to weaken. That's exactly what we're witnessing now. Not open warfare, but calculated pressure. Pressure applied through trade restrictions, sanctions, and strategic positioning. And the reason it works so effectively is because it doesn't look like war. It looks like policy. It looks like economics. But the consequences are identical. Economies shrink, nations weaken, power shifts quietly, without a single battle. If this trajectory continues, and all signs suggest it will, we are entering a new era. An era of silent wars. Conflicts that are indirect. Victories that are not measured by land, but by control. Control over trade. Control over resources. Control over systems. Now look deeper into how this system operates. In the old world, if you wanted to stop an enemy, you bomb their factories. In today's world, you don't need explosives. You just stop the semiconductors from reaching the factory. No noise, no smoke, just a regulation change somewhere far away, a line of code on a shipping document, and suddenly production stops. Workers go home. The economy slows. This is the hidden weapon of the 21st century. Semiconductors, energy, food. These are the new munitions. And the global supply chain is the delivery mechanism. When people analyze tensions in regions like the South China Sea or shifting dynamics in the Middle East, they often focus on visible power, ships, jets, military exercises. But the real struggle is happening beneath that surface. It's about who controls the rules of global trade, who owns the infrastructure, who has the power to switch systems on or off. Imagine a world where one nation can quietly disable another nation's ability to build, to transport, even to feed its population. That's not a distant future. That's already happening. You can see it in the economic decoupling between major powers, in the competition for rare earth minerals, in the way currencies are used as tools of influence. Every trade agreement becomes a strategic alignment. Every tariff becomes a pressure point. Every port becomes a fortress. Now ask yourself, why does this matter to you? Because you are already inside the system. Every price increase you feel, every delay in the technology you depend on, every shift in the job market, these are not random events. They are the ripple effects of a silent conflict reshaping the world without redrawing borders. For decades, we believed that trade would create peace. The idea was simple. If nations depend on each other, they won't fight. But that assumption didn't hold. The connections didn't eliminate conflict, they transformed it. Dependence became vulnerability. Integration became exposure. Now, countries are waking up to that reality. They're pulling back, not with walls of concrete, but with policies, restrictions, and logistical barriers. They're trying to become self-sufficient in a world that was built to be interdependent. It's a paradox, and it's creating a level of tension the modern world hasn't experienced in decades. That tension is the heat of this new war. Now, layer technology, on top of this, data has become the new oil. The cables carrying that data are the new pipelines. If you can intercept data, you can predict trade movements. If you can disrupt networks, you can freeze economies. The digital and physical worlds are no longer separate. They've merged. And the battlefield now exists everywhere. In offices, in warehouses, in homes. This is not a war that ends with a treaty or a clear victory. There will be no moment where one side stands on a podium and declares success. There will only be those who adapted and those who didn't. The nations that dominate the future will be the ones that understand flow, those who can navigate choke points, those who can secure their own lifelines while holding leverage over others. It's not a loud conflict. It's calculated. It's strategic. It's a long game of endurance. And once you begin to see it, your perspective shifts. What looks like economic policy starts to look like strategy. What appears to be competition reveals itself as conflict. What feels stable begins to look like a surface hiding deeper instability. Because beneath it all, the real war is already underway. And the countries that recognize this transformation will shape the future. The ones that ignore it will be shaped by it. So the next time you see a headline about a trade deal, a sanction, or a dispute over a shipping route, don't dismiss it as routine news. See it for what it is, a move on a global chessboard where the stakes are everything. Missiles may never launch. Bombs may never fall. But power is still being contested every single day in ports, in financial systems, in corporate boardrooms. The silence is what makes it dangerous. Because by the time the conflict becomes visible, the outcome may already be decided. So the real question is this: where do you stand in this system? Are you part of the chain that controls the flow or part of the chain being controlled? The answer to that question may define the next century. And once you truly understand it, you can't unsee it. The world isn't what it appears to be. The peace isn't as stable as it feels. And the war, the real war, has already begun. Now, think of the global financial system as the ultimate operating system of the modern world. Like the software on your phone, it runs quietly in the background. You don't notice it until something breaks. But imagine if someone else controlled that system completely. They could lock your accounts, freeze your assets, devalue everything you've saved. They could remove your ability to function economically. This is the hidden layer of modern conflict. It's not just about goods moving across oceans. It's about the digital systems that track, verify, and authorize every transaction. When a country is cut off from global financial networks, it experiences something close to exile. A digital siege. No explosions, no visible destruction. But internally, everything begins to collapse. Currency weakens. Supply chains break. Public confidence erodes. That's why nations are racing to build alternatives. Independent payment systems. New forms of currency. Digital reserves. They're trying to create backup systems, escape routes before the next major disruption hits. Because they understand a critical truth. In a hyper-connected world, dependence is risk. The more integrated you are, the more exposed you become. And slowly, that realization is reshaping the global order. We are moving away from open systems toward fragmented ones, toward a world divided into controlled networks and strategic alliances. where every transaction carries political weight, where every trade decision has consequences beyond profit. This silent war is accelerating because it's no longer just about growth. It's about survival. And as the rules change, so must the way we see the world. The front lines are no longer distant. They're right in front of you, on your screen, in your wallet, in the systems you rely on every day. The war isn't coming. It's already here. And now it demands your attention.